In the late 1970s, two constellations of fame drifted toward each other. Barry Gibb, the last brother still guiding the Bee Gees through their golden age, and Barbra Streisand, already a monument of American music and film. Both were giants in their own right, yet behind their brilliance lived a longing only artists understand to create something that transcends the noise of success. Their meeting wasn't born of glamour or red carpets. It happened quietly, inside a recording studio, sealed off from the world. Barbra had been searching for a new sound, something modern but timeless. Barry, whose songwriting had conquered the world, was invited to help. The first time they met, the room seemed to hold its breath. Barbra, cautious and analytical, studied Barry the way she studied a lyric, deeply, patiently. He, ever warm and unpretentious, spoke with that quick British charm that could disarm even the most guarded soul. When their eyes met across the studio, neither could have known they were about to create one of the greatest musical collaborations of the century. Barry picked up his guitar and played the first few chords of Guilty. Barbra listened, head slightly tilted. "That's beautiful," she murmured, "but can you make it sound like heartbreak wrapped in silk?" Barry smiled and replied softly, "That's the only kind I know." From that moment, the air between them changed. The studio became a sanctuary, a space where ego dissolved and pure creativity took over. Barry, patient and intuitive, let Barbra's voice lead. Barbra, used to absolute control, learned to trust someone else's instincts for the first time. They recorded late into the night, mugs of tea scattered across piano tops, lyric sheets marked with tiny notes, laughter breaking through exhaustion. And sometimes, silence when a lyric hit too close. Barbra would fall quiet, eyes lowered, the emotion too raw to mask. Barry never filled the silence. He simply played softer, waiting for her to return. Those pauses became the soul of the album. What they created together was more than music. Guilty became a conversation in melody, two voices intertwined not as performers, but as confessions. When they sang the line, "We're living in a world of fools," it felt less like a lyric and more like truth whispered between two people who understood the loneliness behind fame. To the world, their chemistry was electric, too effortless to ignore. Rumors swirled. The media speculated about love, late-night sessions, stolen glances. But inside those studio walls, the truth was simpler and far deeper. It wasn't romance, it was recognition. Barbra, the perfectionist who built her life on precision. Barry, the intuitive creator who chased emotion like wildfire. They met in the middle, logic and instinct, control and surrender. And in that balance, they found magic. When Guilty was released in 1980, it was an instant phenomenon. It topped charts, won Grammys, and became an anthem for a generation. The cover, both dressed in white, smiling like two halves of the same light, burned itself into pop culture. But behind those polished smiles were exhaustion and quiet melancholy. Because creating something perfect comes with a price, the knowledge that it can never be recreated. In interviews, Barbra often praised Barry's genius. "He knows how to make a woman sound her best," she said. Barry returned the compliment with warmth. "Barbra doesn't need producing. She needs understanding." To the public, those were polite words. To those who knew them, it was something more. An acknowledgement of an emotional truth that neither could fully express. After Guilty, they drifted apart, each retreating into their separate worlds. Barbra returned to film, chasing stories instead of songs. Barry went back to his brothers, fighting to hold together the band that fame had nearly broken. Time passed. The 80s turned to 90s. The world changed, and both of them carried the quiet ache of nostalgia for a moment in time when creation had felt effortless and pure. But destiny had one more verse to write. In 2005, more than 2 decades later, Barry reached out again. His voice, now softer with age, carried the weight of memory. He suggested something simple. "Let's do another one." Barbra hesitated. The past was delicate. Nostalgia can be cruel. But Barry's sincerity melted her hesitation. "Let's see what happens," she replied. When they met again in the studio, it was as if time had folded in on itself. The air was gentler now, not charged with youthful energy, but with gratitude. Barry's silver hair glimmered under the studio lights. Barbra's calm presence filled the room. When they began to sing, it was like two old souls returning home. The album was called Guilty Pleasures, but what they created wasn't indulgence, it was reflection. Their voices, older and wiser, carried every scar, every loss, every triumph they had lived through. When they recorded Come Tomorrow, the emotion was unmistakable. This was not a love song. It was a conversation between two people who had seen life, loss, and survival. Behind the scenes, their connection was tender. Barbra would ask, "Do you still believe in love songs, Barry?" He would smile and reply, "Only when you sing them." Barry had lost his brothers by then, Maurice and Robin, the voices that had shaped his entire life. That grief lived quietly in his music. One day, tuning his guitar, he told Barbra, "Maurice loved your voice. He used to say, 'She sings like she means every word.'" Barbra reached over, touched his hand, and said softly, "So do you." It was a small moment, but it spoke volumes. A brief intersection of loss and healing. Their collaboration this time wasn't about fame. There were no flashing cameras or late-night rumors. Just two artists, side by side, rediscovering the joy of making something real.